All right, it's been a day here trying to keep you up to date on that terrible story from earlier this morning involving the killing of a Montreal police officer. David Heurtel is on the line. David, I don't want to dwell on this. I know we have things to talk about today, but I did want to give you a chance just to weigh in because this is a difficult day for all of us here.
Well, I think as all Montrealers, we're shaken. It's a deep blow, and obviously. When you're talking about a police officer dead, another one fighting for her life, and a citizen losing his life in this manner, it's a tragedy.
Yeah.
And I think as Montrealers, obviously we're in shock. It's normal. We have a lot of questions, and the answers will come eventually. I think it's going to be very important for the political class to not jump to conclusion, not to instrumentalize or attempt to instrumentalize once we learn what did happen and how it happened and why it happened. Montreal has been going through a lot over the last few weeks and months. I mean, just from a police perspective, not less than 2 weeks ago, we were talking about what we were talking about last week, racism, right? And just everything else, economically speaking, and we could go down the list. We as a city have to come together. As citizens, we're going to have to come together because the next few days, weeks, and months are going to be very, very difficult. And I think we have to pull through because we're going through very, very trying times in the city. And we saw our police chief. I mean, he let's face it, he was a bit struggling at the beginning of his press conference this afternoon. And I think we are all struggling to come to an understanding of what's going on with our city. And so it's going to be easy to jump to conclusions. It's going to be easy to try to cast blame, cast doubt. Maybe try to divide. I hope we don't go down that path, or some of us don't go down that path. But as a city, I think for weeks, months, and even dare I say years, we're going through a difficult time, and the city has to come together in a major way. And I hope that we do this, and out of this horrible tragedy comes a different way of looking at ourselves as a community.
Well said. David, thank you. All right, let me get to, there is politics going on today. There always is. Mm-hmm. Interesting, I don't know what we call it, I guess. According to the Journal de Montréal, do we call it a beauty contest, a popularity contest? What do you want to call this? But it does show Christine Frichette's doing okay.
Yeah, I myself call it a beauty contest, but it's an interesting poll because Léger does this like every 6 months. They do it during the holidays. And they do it, just before the summer break. And Christine Frichette herself is the second most popular politician in Quebec after who? Mark Carney, who is still very on top of this. He's at 60% favorable. Christine Frichette at 50%. Paul Saint-Pierre-Plamondon down at 44. And what's very concerning, it's very good for Christine Frichette. And going into the summer break, and we'll see how she performs with this crisis. The press conference is coming up in a few minutes. But there's definitely here cause to take her momentum very seriously. Now 2 months away from the beginning of the election campaign. I have to talk about Charles Milliard. He is far behind. 42% of Quebecers are saying they don't know who he is. He is, again, showing a lot of difficulty in establishing himself. We've talked about this many times. But over the weekend, there was so much news, but I don't know if you saw it. Charles Milliard lost one of his star candidates over the weekend. When he started announcing candidacies across Quebec, one of his first major announcements was in the Quebec City region. He had announced the candidacy of René Verret, a very prominent attorney in Quebec City. Well, he withdrew his candidacy over the weekend. That's a big hit because that was like his first big get, especially in the Quebec City area.
Well, do we know why?
He said in his declaration, Mr. Verret said he just put up a social media text saying that he, after announcing his candidacy, he realized that he was not up to the challenge of actually the day-to-day grind of a campaign. I'm not quoting here. I'm putting it in my words, but that he was a bit surprised or taken aback by the requirements of campaigning. And, you got to think that there's other reasons behind this. So it wasn't family, it wasn't health, it wasn't a scandal. But again, you got to think that the poor showing of Charles Milliard, especially in the Quebec City region, poll after poll after poll is showing the Liberals in fourth place, Aaron, in Quebec City. Yeah. And you know how important Quebec City is. It's a bellwether for all of eastern Quebec, and going, from, all the way to the Maritimes, but heading west all the way to Trois-Rivières and Mauricie in the center of Quebec. And so a lot of times, so goes Quebec City, so goes that whole big seat-rich area of the province. So it's a big problem for somebody out going into the summer, and nothing is indicating that he's changing his strategy, especially with today. And I know we're pressed for time, but if I can jump to the inflation numbers. I mean,
sure,
3.2% inflation across the country. Obviously, everybody's going to say, of course, it's about oil, it's about what's happening in the Middle East. But you got to say that this, with this news going to the summer holiday, and then we will very quickly be in election campaign mode, shows that the economy, affordability, cost of living will be the centerpiece of the campaign. And Charles Milliard and the Liberals have not established themselves, what they stand for, what they're about. They haven't established a connection with Quebecers on that fundamental issue, opening it up for Christine Fréchette, actually. And especially since Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon over the weekend, again, going to France and giving interviews, talking about independence. He's going to probably, I don't know if today's events will postpone his scheduled rollout of yet another chapter of what a Quebec, an independent Quebec would look like. It was scheduled for sometime this week. But, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon is staying on one core message. It's going to be only about independence and how horrible the federal government is, and the federal regime, he called it over the weekend in an interview, is hurting Quebec and Quebecers. So for Christine Fréchette, there's an opening, but for Charles Milliard, it's seriously an issue. And I can't help but thinking if there are liberals out there with the announced candidacy of Antoine Dion Charest, aren't thinking, maybe it's time to think of the post-Charles Milliard era.
Wow. I mean, again, I keep, repeating what people say to me, which is, wait a sec, yes. And I agree with you, by the way, David. And I played your clip for Charles Milliard when he was here, suggesting most people simply don't know him and he hasn't broken through. He doesn't seem to be too concerned. He thinks, the campaign, when it officially begins, which is not till August, that will provide him the time. He's going to the regions. He'll make his, I guess, mark then. And I know, I'm sitting here going, what's the wait? Why the wait?
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Maybe that's how campaigns go.
Well, you see, the thing is that when you wait for a campaign in today's communication environment, you're going to have 5 parties every day doing events, talking about issues. And to put everything on 1 or 2 debates is a very risky strategy. And the thing is that also it's a problem because you need to be able, if you still haven't established your brand and what you stand for and who you're about and what you're about, then it's very hard also to recruit candidates. And so you can't wait for the campaign to recruit candidates. You haven't seen a lot of big names. Yeah. You haven't seen a lot of big announcements from Charles Milliard. Also, it's more about, establishing a connection, and he has yet to do that. So it's basically the equivalent of going all in and putting everything on a performance during a campaign. There's going to be a lot of noise. There's going to be a lot of different issues being thrown out. And it reminds me of 2022. Dominique Anglade was kind of that same position. And she never was able to establish herself as a credible person to become Premier of Quebec. And that's what Charles Milliard has yet to do. And on top of that, the question becomes, for Quebecers, if I don't want, especially with this is why I think these inflation numbers are so important. This is not the time to be talking about a referendum, right? Quebecers don't want it. Even sovereigntists don't want it. A lot of sovereigntists don't want to hear about a referendum. And so it's not the time. It's time to focus on the real difficulties that Quebecers are living in their day-to-day lives, having to do primarily with affordability. And then the ballot question becomes, who is the best person to do that? Just like it was the ballot question last year during the federal campaign, it was obviously Mark Carney. So now, if Pascal Plamondon sticks in his lane, and the question isn't, because Charles is gambling that the ballot question is, if you're a Federalist and you don't want anything to do with Pascal Plamondon, I'm the guy.
Right.
Well, right now, the question doesn't seem that. The question seems to be shifting more towards who is the best person to steer Quebec through these very, very trying economic times. And Christine Fréchette is obviously making a case. It's far from over. Yeah. It's far from done, obviously. But Charles Milliard isn't tracking on that issue, and that's really, really concerning.
Yeah, it's funny. I can't help but think, David, as you say that, imagine if Charles Milliard could pull off an opposite Philip Couillard, where he goes on and does an interview and says, I know what it costs to buy groceries for a family of 2 or 3 or 4. I know because I'm in the store, as opposed to what happened to Philip Couillard. It seems like a perfect opportunity.
What would I do? Yes, what would I do? Yeah. Or I feel your pain, or I'm here and I understand.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let's talk about the grocery bills, and trying to contrast with the last 8 years, especially the last 4 years, because Christine Fréchette was a senior cabinet minister in the last 4 years, and try to contrast, and you're not seeing that. You got to say also, it's Charles Milliard. When he came up, he was talking more about he led a lot the comparisons with Robert Bourassa. And not a flashy politician, but a politician focused on the economy. He hasn't done that. And so he hasn't established himself as a credible option with regards of Quebecers' priorities. Poll after poll after poll, you know this, and I repeat this all the time, but what can I say? The polls say it. Quebecers say it. You hear it every day on the show. It's about affordability. It's about health care. Yeah. It's about housing. We're going to, just in July, to take your example, we're going to, July 1st, we're going to have again, what are we going to talk about July 1st, Aaron? We're going to talk about people not being able to find homes, how rents have skyrocketed. Yeah. Where is going to be Charles Milliard on this across the province? This is not just a Montreal problem.
No, for sure.
Right now, he is not positioned there. And again, these poll after poll after poll. So I get that Charles Milliard and his advisor said, don't worry. But the thing is that poll after poll after poll, they keep saying the same thing. It's the same problem, with Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre is the most unpopular politician in Quebec. After that, Éric Duhem. After that, Bernard Dréville. You can't shift that. These are tendencies. Once they get rock hard, it's very hard to shift them, especially in a couple of weeks. So it's more than just people not knowing him. What Quebecers are really saying is, I don't know what you stand for. It's very hard to get a person's vote when they don't know what you stand for.
Fair enough.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll.
We're coming to get you!
One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all.
Bryan Adams Radio.
I'm coming back to you.
Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Hey everybody, how are you tonight? Sounds great.